Hello YouTube, this is the Booted Warrior, and we are only a couple more weeks off from getting to play Halo Infinite's campaign. I suppose it is impossible for 343 to continue making Halo games after Infinite, but personally I get the impression that this will likely be Halo's final outing, especially since it's going to be the conclusion to the Reclaimer trilogy. Of all the Halo games getting released, I'd say this is one of the most important releases in the franchise, as it will solidify 343's place in the franchise's history. It's important for 343 that this game comes out good, and of course it's important for Halo as a series. Now naturally, with a game as diverse in style as Halo, you get a lot of different opinions about what the game needs to be good. I figured with the release being so close, I should outline and list some of my own hopes and dreams for Halo Infinite. This will be primarily campaign focused, but I will talk a little bit about the multiplayer. In fact, let's talk about the multiplayer first, since it's going to be the smaller part of the discussion. Before I begin, I will address that yes, I know that when it comes to the multiplayer, odds are a lot of what I'm hoping for will not be ready for launch, especially given 343's track record. But either way, I just want to get my thoughts out there, because when the hell else am I going to be able to bring this up? Now, I know the common defense is, it's a beta when it comes to the problems with Infinite's multiplayer, but two things. First of all, I don't know about you, but the moment a game starts trying to coax me for money, it is no longer a beta. In this case, the devs themselves have even stated that it's really only called a beta so they can check for technical issues before the game's launch. Secondly, I'm not gonna lie, this game gets really fucking boring, really fucking quick, when all you're left with is Capture the Flag, Oddball, Slayer, Strongholds, and Stockpile. Yes, these game modes are all enjoyable in their own way, but where's SWAT? Where's Infection? Where's Griffball? Where's Team Snipers? Where's Free-for-All? Where's Firefight? We don't even get a Warzone or Spartan Ops equivalent. Also, why the hell is it that I can only play with BR starts and Rant? Why aren't they split up between AR starts and Precision Start Slayer? I'm sorry, but I can't help but compare this game constantly to the Master Chief Collection. The MCC in its modern state has brought about so many quality of life changes to the UI and the way that matchmaking works that it's just disappointing to see none of it getting brought over to Halo Infinite at the base. It just doesn't make any sense. If you have one game where players have all kinds of different game modes and a lot more power over which modes they can play, why can't you carry that over to the next game too? I mean, what the fuck is that about? Infinite's UI and matchmaking isn't just different, it's flat out worse. If I want to play Slayer, I can just play Slayer in the MCC. If I want to play Slayer in Infinite, I have to pick this stupid playlist that chooses modes at complete random. Don't feel like playing Capture the Flag 5 times in a row? Well, tough shit, because you're going to be playing it 5 times in a row, where the RNG gods have demanded it. There's not even a veto feature for the maps, or any voting system for that matter. God damn it, 343, this is America, and we go by a democratic system.
I thought this was America! Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought this was America!
Now on the topic of the UI, you might remember that in the MCC when you unlock new armor parts, you get a nice notification in the customization menu that tells you exactly where the new armor piece is, but Halo Infinite doesn't have that. So if you casually glance at the progression bar and just barely miss the new armor part before you cancel out of the screen, you're fucked. Now you have to dig through menus, no idea what new armor piece you even got unless you go to a separate menu and check, and then you have to figure out which menu it's buried under so you can equip it. Usually getting new armor pieces can be exciting, but in this game it's almost a chore to find it and equip it. By the way, it takes way too long to unlock armor pieces, even when you buy the battle pass. I guess it's designed to try to force you to waste money on the XP boost. Definitely not predatory at all. Let me just say, I really don't understand the concept of battle passes in general. I get that they're normal in modern games, but why do I have to spend money on a battle pass just so I can unlock the ability to grind for God knows how long, just so I can actually unlock the armor pieces I want to use? Why can't it just be like League of Legends or StarCraft 2, where I just buy the skins and move on with my life? The main way you boost your XP is by doing these challenges, but they're just awkward in a serious match. You really have to go out of your way to do these, and while you have the option of swapping challenges, you can't pick which ones you want to swap with. Winning the game doesn't even affect your XP. Right now, there is no system in place that encourages and rewards better players for having a high win rate. For colors, you don't even get to pick primary and secondary colors like you could in the previous games. Now you're stuck with specific presets, instead of being able to customize your Spartan the way you want. As far as the armor pieces go, apparently a lot of armor pieces are locked behind specific armor types. You can't mix and match like you can in the MCC. For the gameplay, thankfully I don't really have much bad to say. I think the game is a lot of fun and it feels more like classic Halo compared to Halo 4 and Halo 5. All the weapons feel useful to some extent and there's no issue of overlapping weapons. One thing I can mention is that it's a little too hard to hear footsteps from other players. Now maybe it's just me, but I always find myself getting sneaked up on even when players are running straight at me. This is most noticeable in Ranked, where you don't even have a motion tracker. As for the vehicles, personally I'm not a fan of the way the game handles vehicle spawns in big team battles. Whereas before, you had the same vehicle spawn consistently around the same time, now there seems to be some kind of RNG element to vehicle spawning. Apparently there's a tank in the game. Legends also say that when the stars and the moons all align, a wraith might even appear. In my mind, the main point of big team battles is to be able to try out the vehicles. One game I might get to fly the Wasp, another game on the same map with the same playlist, I could end up only getting to fly a Banshee. For me, it just sucks the fun out of using vehicles. If you really want to let people try out different vehicles, why not just have both versions of heavy and air vehicles spawn on different parts of the map? At least then, you could have a chance at trying either of them. Finally, we have to bring up the lack of a custom games browser. Even Gearbox had a custom games browser in 2003, on their old port of Halo 1. It is unacceptable that Infinite does not have one too, when you have even less options when it comes to playing specific game modes than usual. Now let's talk about the campaign, and about one of 343's most controversial additions to the franchise, Prometheans. As much as I love Halo's original combat loop, and I love fighting the Covenant, it would be pretty disappointing for the Prometheans to not appear at any point in the campaign. Way I see it, this could be 343's last chance to make the Prometheans interesting to fight against. In Halo 4, one type could climb on walls, but the level design didn't really get any value out of that mechanic. And then you had the Knights that had the same shield system as the Elites, where you melt down the shield, then shoot them in the head to finish them off. They can teleport, which potentially could be used for a nice game of cat and mouse depending on how the Knights' stats were balanced. But in practice, all it really does is delay their inevitable doom. It's just kind of annoying, and it's never clear when they will teleport to escape or instantly kill the player. They could summon Watchers that could shield them, revive them, and deny grenades. All of these mechanics could be nice if they were split up between different enemy types, but instead they were all dumped on the Watcher, turning it into a priority target in each Promethean encounter, thereby making them repetitive and sucking away the nuance and strategic diversity that usually comes with firefights in Halo. For example, in the case of the Covenant, you can either take out the Elites first, removing the stronger enemies and getting the Grunts to flee in terror, or you could take out the cannon fodder first and deny potential grenade spam. You could also take out the Jackals first and prevent the Covenant from threatening a charged plasma shot. Similar logic can be applied to the Flood, where you can focus down carriers and prevent them from creeping up on you, and use their explosive deaths to your advantage. You can ignore infection forms and focus down combat forms, or you can take out the infection forms so you have more room to maneuver. The same kind of logic can apply throughout all of Bungie's games, and it's a big part of what makes the combat loops in Halo so engaging. No single strategy is always the best strategy, and consequently no encounter can feel exactly the same, even when you go through it multiple times. 343 really dropped the ball when it came to the Prometheans as a result of how they balanced them out. Now, as far as Halo 5 goes, I can't really comment because I didn't play it myself. But from what I've seen, they don't seem any more exciting to fight with the addition of Promethean soldiers. It doesn't help that the Prometheans only have any identity in Halo 4 anyways. In Halo 5, they're just kinda there with no clear leader or goals. We don't understand them the same way that we understand the Covenant. As far as antagonists go, they just seem like boring-ass robots. Them being humans at one point and being transformed to help fight the Flood is really all they have going for them lore-wise. Now, I haven't heard shit about them in Halo Infinite, and frankly, I would be surprised if they made any appearance in the campaign at all. I certainly hope they do. I would like to see them done justice just once. They're the only original enemy type 343 has invented for Halo, and just as far as the world building and story goes, it would just be awkward of them to just suddenly disappear from the story just because they're not popular, with how much they appear throughout Halo 4 and 5. Besides, if they could make the Prometheans interesting, it would give Infinite more of its own identity, and keep the combat from feeling like we're just kinda doing the same old shit we've seen in every other Halo game. As far as the Flood are concerned, I would like to see them appear again with a few gameplay additions, but I don't really want to see them elevated to the main antagonist like in the original trilogy. Once again, we've already done that before, and while I get that the big thing in Halo Infinite is how it's going back to the series' roots, I don't want that to happen at the expense of it feeling too derivative. If the Prometheans do make a return, I would like for them to be the main antagonist, somewhat like how the Flood suddenly became the main antagonist at the halfway point of Halo 1, and given enough development to not only be fun to fight, but threatening. Yeah, it's going to be hard to do, given that this is the end of a trilogy, but what can you do? Shouldn't have fucked it up the last 2 times. Speaking of fucking up, it's about time we address the elephant in the room, Cortana. When I heard they were making a new Halo game, the first thing that came to my mind is, oh boy, how are they going to damage control Cortana? I would be surprised if anybody enjoyed Cortana suddenly turning into a villain in Halo 5. They don't even develop why she's evil to begin with. Some shit about the domain? I think Cortana was given a perfect conclusion with her death in Halo 4. I've seen some fan theories about how Cortana might have been corrupted by the Logic Plague through her encounter with the Grave Mind in Halo 3, and this is part of why she's crazy. Honestly, I feel like that's the best route 343 can take with this concept, as it would be a decent way to bring back the Flood into the story naturally with what's been established. Besides, what else are we gonna get? Some ridiculous pseudo-philosophical bullshit about how humanity are bad and need to be punished for their sins? Sorry guys, but pollution exists, so humanity needs to be exterminated. There's actually a lot in Halo 5 that was barely developed. There are Blue Team references in the multiplayer, so maybe Blue Team will make an appearance in the story? What about Team Osiris? I don't expect them to be in the spotlight, but it would be nice if they at least showed up a few times with some personality to help them stand out as characters, just so their inclusion in the main plot can have some justification. In fact, I think it would be downright lazy to just completely ignore them in the campaign. The few characters we have met seem pretty good so far, but I hope it's not just going to be them the entire time. As for the weapon, I have mixed feelings. On the one hand, it seems pretty uninspired to kill Cortana, make her a villain, only to just have another AI appear for the convenience of the Chief. On the other hand, she does have a completely different personality from Cortana from what we've seen, so maybe we can get some fresh interactions between her and Chief, so it doesn't feel too similar to Chief and Cortana's dynamic. Perhaps the writers can find a way to bring back the humanity versus machine themes that Halo 4 set up. Some people hate how Chief was more three-dimensional in Halo 4, but personally, I loved it. I understand that the main purpose of Chief was to be a stand-in for the player, and thus he just wasn't characterized much in the older games, but Halo 4 made Chief more of a character, and I think exploring his mental and emotional well-being and how the Spartan program affected him is a great concept for a story that was never really addressed in the Bungie games. Another thing is the topic of the open world. Usually Halo is more linear, and every encounter is designed in a particular way, and I hope the open world design doesn't interfere with the crafted encounters that Halo is celebrated for. As far as the actual open world itself goes, I just wanted to avoid being too boring. Encourage plenty of exploration without having the structure of the game feel too repetitive like so many open world games can feel around the halfway point. Every open world game starts off fresh and new until you play it for several hours and realize that all the various content is basically just the same type of content being copy-pasted throughout the game world. Whether it's taking out enemy camps, optional dungeons, hunting down a particular enemy type, or whatever, every open world game has certain types of optional missions that have you doing the exact same objectives with just a different level layout and different enemy types. It doesn't help that open world games are one of the most oversaturated genres of modern gaming, so the repetitive nature of their quest design is more apparent. Basically, keep the missions diversified. It would be nice if we got to see different biomes in certain parts of the ring, too. Now for something a little more small scale. We already know that the ring will have wildlife on it, and there's already confirmation that some of them will just run from you and not retaliate at all when you shoot them. But I think it would be cool if you had to fight some wildlife in the campaign, kinda like that one time in Halo Reach. And that's about all I can really say about that. One last thing I wanted to mention was the balancing of legendary difficulty. Basically, I want something that's more akin to the legendary experience of Halo Combat Evolved or Halo 3. I want it fair, and I do not want it to be the Halo 2 style, fuck you difficulty. I hope that even on the hardest difficulty, every weapon can be viable. I don't want to be pigeonholed into using nothing but precision weapons and power weapons all game long. It would just detract from the dynamic combat of Halo and make the encounters less engaging. I want just enough health to get away with being aggressive, but not to a ridiculous degree to where I can suicide into a group of enemies and get away with it. Basically, I want it balanced like Halo 3 or Halo 1. I also hope that even on the hardest difficulty, the Marines won't just die the moment they start fighting. From what I've heard, using equipment is more important on Heroic and Legendary than it is on easier difficulties, and I don't mind that at all as long as I have options as a player. Just please, for the love of God, 343, Don't punish me for simply moving out of cover. Oh, and please don't nerf the ammo capacity of all my weapons like you did in Halo 4. Well, that's about all I can think of for Halo Infinite. What do y'all think of Halo Infinite so far? And is there anything else you're hoping to see? Don't forget to smash that like button, comment, and even subscribe and share if you enjoyed it. And I'll see y'all next time.